Now, finally, on the podcast, our My Android Journey segment this week comes to us courtesy of Judy Jones, and as you've heard, Judy is on the podcast live with us. Hey, Judy.
So my Android journey has been really interesting. I, like so many blind people, when I was leaving the Symbian platform, I had a number of phones since 2005, and I had talks on them, and I loved it because I love the eloquence voice. So I had, oh gosh, I think the 6220, the 6530, the 6682, I think I had at one point the N95 and the N96. I mean, I just loved them all. I really did. And I was loath to leave that platform in 2009, I think was my last official. And then, of course, I started trying to get some off of eBay, like, oh, can I please, 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 please? And then, it was the hardware. I was finding hardware failure in some of these more, sooner than later. And I thought, you know what? I need to force myself kicking and screaming into a touch screen scenario. So after work one day, I stopped off at my AT&T, my provider, and I'd heard that all these blind people were using iPhones, and so I'm like, I don't know what one is, but hey. So I go in, and they knew how, of course, to turn on the voiceover and get me started and so forth. I spent a year with that iPhone and extremely frustrated with it. And to make a long story short, I ended up through work, had a colleague who worked at the Utah School for the Blind who was training in Android. And I'm like, Android, huh? I've heard of it. So he suggested, and so I went to my AT&T, and the lady who helped me out had at the time, it was an Optimus 2 phone. It was an LG phone, Optimus 2. And this was just right when Jelly Bean had gotten started. And so this is the thing that my contact had said, now that Android is on Jelly Bean, you're going to have a good experience with it. You'll enjoy it, I think. So anyway, I get this phone and I loved it. I really did. I didn't know anything about a home screen. I knew it was kind of like a desktop, but didn't know what to do with it, anything like that. And he suggested, I said, what do I do? And he suggested, for beginner, uh, download an app called Equalize. And I don't know if any of y'all remember that one, but it basically saved my life in the sense that it was one of these blindy accessible home screen apps that kind of, that really just guide you by the hand through everything, which is what I needed. But it's a good little app, and it's too bad it was abandoned shortly thereafter. But it was a good little app. It was pretty cool. Anyway, so that's what I got started on, that Symbian 2. And then somehow, I think it was Quentin Williams, who was my colleague, by the way, who actually told me about this list, the what used to be the Eyes Free. Oh gosh, now I don't remember what it was called. It was set, but it was the Eyes Free list, and introduced me to Warren Carr.
Yeah, the ice cream.
Yep. Okay. So I got on that list, and I was then kind of ready. I'd heard about this is when the S4 was out, and I was asking about smaller phones, and Warren was telling me about the S4 Mini, and so I thought, oh, that sounds cool. So I got one off of eBay, a new unlocked one, and I loved it. And today it's repurposed as a grandfather clock. It's sitting in our living room. But I love that phone. I still do, and it works wonderfully. The battery life is awesome. Then, of course, from there, I went to the S5 Mini, and I also, let's see, I had a couple of LG phones in between there. Part of my phone journey is we were looking for a phone for my husband, who's also blind, and he didn't want to go to a touch screen. So I'm thinking, are you sure? And so I thought, what can I find? What would be the easiest phone if he has to go to a touch screen and so on? At one time in my collection, I had 15 phones that I either got really cheap or traded up or whatever. And I still have some of them. But yes, for myself, let's see, I've had a couple of LG phones. I had the G4 back then. And then, of course, I mentioned the G20. At one time, I had the Escape. That was an LG phone. It was a smaller one, and so was the Vigor. I tried that one out too, and they were all really good phones. Did what I wanted them to do. Touch screen, smaller. The smallest one I've had is a ZTE phone, which is the Avail 2, and I bought it for like $89, and I loved it. It was great. Real cute little tiny phone. Um, but anyway, fast forwarding to I finally went into the Samsung S7. And the thing I've liked about the Samsungs is I like the feature of having a dedicated button you can choose to have answer your phone. It's certainly not necessary, but it's a nice touch, I think. And Samsung's really done, for the most part, pretty well with accessibility, through the years. So I've had the S7. I actually still have my S7. The S8 I traded in. I went straight up to the S10e. And this is like as of this year. One of the fun phones I've really had that I love that I use as a backup. It's one that somebody on the Eyes Free list back then recommended to me because I was curious. Actually, two of them. One of them was an Android flip phone that was sold overseas that you actually got through, I think it was US Mobile over here. You could. It was called the Galaxy Wine Smart. And it was just a flip phone. You'd open up, you'd have your touch screen plus your physical buttons. And it was the best phone. When we had a tower upgrade, though, it quit working. And this was back in 2016. Just one fine day in January when we had a snow day and I couldn't go to work and was trying to call in. That was great. So anyway, that quit working, unfortunately. I was really sad to see that one go. But in 2017, I heard about the Samsung Galaxy Folder 2, and it's the SMG 1560, I think. Now that I'm trying to think of it, I'm not sure. But I think it's something like that. And SMG 1560. But it, again, is a flip phone. It holds all of my 100+ apps. It will hold my 250 gigabyte SD card. It's got dedicated button for social media, so I've dedicated it to YouTube. It's got a messaging button that I programmed into the Android message, the Google Messages for Android. It's got a camera button that I am using with Open Camera on that phone. And it's a wonderful little phone. The thing about it is, unlike Samsung, it did not come with any TTS loaded into it. So I had to have some assistance getting TalkBack put on it, but once it was put on, no problem. One of the other downsides to it, though, is that when you close the screen, TalkBack turns off. So, and when you open the screen, you have to wake TalkBack off. Wake it up. It only takes a few seconds, but it does wake up. But it's kind of an annoyance. I wish TalkBack would stay on. That's the only thing about it I don't like. But it's very minimal. It's and like when I'm using the phone regularly, it doesn't. I don't even think about it really. But that's my Android journey, and I started with Android in 2013 and haven't looked back.
Thank you, Judy, for that.
Thank you.
I think that was a great experience. And this is why we like hearing those Android journey stories, because it reminds us of those days when we first got started and what the struggles were and how you felt at the time. But, it seems like you actually have had a very good experience. So thank you for sharing that with us and with our audiences.
Well, it was the list and you and Austin and people like you guys. And Tabitha, I know that you have helped me out on some things earlier. I remember talking to you on the list. I think it was like a Twitter issue I was having at the time that you helped me with. And different people on the list I can think of who've helped me with different problems. And that's what it's so wonderful hearing everybody's voice when you get on these podcasts, because, you just want to give a big shout out and thank you. And it's the list that really got me through a lot of things. So thank you guys.
Thanks very much, Judy.